Hey guys, we're going to go to football here real quick after a read from LinkedIn. As small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free and share with your network and get qualified candidates all in one place. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helped them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Got two good guests coming up later in the show. Dane Brugler, of course, from The Athletic. His 7-round mock draft just came out. We'll talk about what he has the Browns doing. We'll talk with him at noon. And Ben Solak, who's an NFL writer for ESPN, will join us at 12:30. Right now, we'll talk about the potential of the Browns trading up. I know Anthony suggested, could the Browns, trade up for a wide receiver? Tet McMillan.
Well, to set that up, he visited the Browns on a top 30 visit this week. Right. So he was in town. McMillan, who is considered, if you take Hunter out of the equation because he's the combo receiver, defensive back, McMillan's either the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver on every draft expert's big board. Some have him 1, some have Matthew Golden 1, but he was here in Cleveland on a visit.
It was an odd guy, honestly, to
have a top 30 visit with.
Right, because he doesn't seem like a guy that would be.
A lot of times, Adam, teams will take a top 30 visit on a player that they just maybe missed or need to get some due diligence on. They'll bring a player in. Maybe they didn't get to spend enough time with him at the combine or what have you. And that's why they brought in like 3 or 4 of the top receivers that could go in the first round. You're like, well, the Browns aren't going to be able to pick that guy.
Right.
Well, this just goes, the Patriots forever have interviewed guys that they had no interest in drafting, but you never know. Like, what if a player, there's a trade down, and the Browns all of a sudden are picking in a spot where this guy falls to them. They want to have the information. So I wouldn't read too much into these top 30 visits other than the team wants to make sure they have all the right information about this guy prior to the draft, just in case.
And on Tet McMillan in specific, if he was to fall or the Browns were to somehow target him as a guy, hey, we need to get, he's the opposite of what they have in the receiver room. He's a 6'4", legitimate outside X receiver, big-bodied guy, jump ball kind of guy, contested catch kind of guy, which if you're going into the assumption they drafted Travis Hunter at number 2 and Jerry Jeudy's your number 2 receiver, those are more create separation, not necessarily slot guys, but less big-bodied red zone threat and more smaller, go-deep guys. So it would be a good compliment in the receiver room, but I don't anticipate him being available.
Travis Hunter and then draft a wide receiver again. I can't see that happening.
Unless they want
to in a row.
I tend to agree, but unless they want to completely revamp the receiver room and say, we like a lot of these guys in the receiver class here, we'll address other needs later. They do have 10
I don't know.
picks,
I think it's unlikely, but like you said, doing due diligence, obviously nothing wrong with that. And if by some chance he dropped to them at 33, maybe they do go change their mind because they didn't expect it. I can't see any scenario where the Browns trade up into the first round for anything but a quarterback. Anybody see any scenario?
I do, actually.
You do?
I do. Now, quarterback is by far the most likely of all the options. If they're going to trade back up from 33 to 24 or 28, 29, whatever, it's most likely going to be a quarterback. But let's just say the Browns have done their due diligence and they don't love the value of a Milroe or a Shuck.
Yeah.
I have to say the F word and then the SH word to get that.
Good.
Or any of the other quarterbacks that would be there at 33 to trade up for.
Yeah.
When you look at, and we'll talk to Dane Brugler about this in a little bit, the offensive tackle position in this class does not have an elite top tier, this guy's a surefire top 5 pick offensive tackle. Will Campbell and Armand Mahmoud from Missouri, the top 2 guys, most likely top 10 picks, but they're by no means like a consensus. This guy is definitely the guy. Mm-hmm. Some guys like Mahmoud better. Some guys like Will Campbell better. In Brugler's mock, he had Will Campbell going forward, but whatever. After those 2, his next 4 or 5 tackles, and Todd McShay's next 4 or 5 tackles, and Mel Kiper's next 4 or 5 tackles, all fall in that 19 to 35-ish range. And the Browns, with the unquestioned and uncertainty of DeJuan Jones' health, with the age of Jack Conklin, if they see an offensive tackle, they say, we think that guy might be a top 15 player in this draft. And he's going to be available at 25 or 26, whether it be Donovan Jackson or Josh Simmons from Ohio State, or it be the guy from Boston College that Dane Brugler had them mocked to today, or it be Josh Connolly from Oregon. One of those guys, if they say, hey, we actually think he might be the best tackle in the draft. We like him more than we like Will Campbell, who had arms at the combine that measured shorter than prototypical left tackle status. Or we don't like Mahmoud out of Missouri because he's never played left tackle in the NFL. He's only played right tackle. We actually think Simmons or Connolly is the best tackle in the draft at 24, 25, 26, whatever that range may be. If one of those guys is still on the board, I could see a scenario where the Browns address the offensive line by trading up to get one of those guys just to ensure they get their top tackle. I don't think it's a receiver. I doubt it's a running back. I don't even see it really being a defensive player. But if it's not quarterback and the Browns do make a trade up, I could see it being for an offensive tackle there.
What do you think?
I hate offensive tackles taking them high just because it's
not sexy.
A sexy
it's just
pick.
not sexy.
And it's like there's not a Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
There's not you name it, a top tier guy that is like a once in a generation type of tackle. There seems like there's good players, but there's no one that just stands out as like this guy has to be the guy. So I don't like the idea of that, especially not high in the draft. But I honestly, like, if the Browns don't take a quarterback at 2 and they don't take Travis Hunter, I think it's the biggest mistake ever.
Oh my God! If they don't take either quarterback or Hunter, it would be beyond stupid.
Because a lot of people think they'll take Abdul Carter at 2.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I hate the idea of taking Abdul Carter. Nothing against him, but your theory on the offensive line.
What if they took Ashton Genty at 2?
It's the stupidest thing ever.
I'm just saying.
A running back at 2?
I'm just saying. Saquon Barkley went top 5.
He went 2.
That was stupid.
Pick. It was stupid. He's very, very good, but it was...
Won the Eagles Super Bowl. They didn't draft him.
They didn't draft him. Wouldn't have won the Giants anything. This idea of piling...
I don't know that anybody would win the Giants anything.
The Giants are crap, and it's fair to pick on them, but to crap on them for not signing Barkley is stupid because they wouldn't have won with Barkley.
No. They would have won 1 or 2 more games.
A running back doesn't make a bad team good. A quarterback does. A running back can make a very good team better.
Great. Yeah.
But it can't make a bad team good,
right?
No matter how good the back is.
But this year, if it's going to be Flacco for the most part, you've got to have. They're going to draft a running back. I'm not saying they're going to draft one at 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take a running back at 2. I'm just throwing it out there
to
see your crazy reaction.
That is nuts, but not as nuts as trading up for some slappy offensive lineman. Are you out of your mind?
Listen, I said I don't think it's likely, but
you just said all 5 of these guys are considered to be the same. Why would you trade up for one of them? I don't know if that's true. Even
if the Browns liked one significantly more than the rest and they were sitting there at 24, 25, and they said, hey, we have this guy as a top 15 prospect.
First of all, the Browns don't know what the F they're doing. They get it wrong all the time when it comes to offensive line.
Well, I'm going with this under the assumption that you have to trust the guys in the position who have scouted these guys for
if they're all
months and years.
Even if the Browns think one of them is clearly better than the rest, but if the Browns know that the general consensus is they're all the same, then the Browns are not going to making a panic move to trade up. It doesn't make any sense to me. I
don't think it's a panic move, though. If you identify one of those guys, it could be, it doesn't matter the name. We'll use Josh Simmons for the sake of discussion. If they say, we think Josh Simmons is at a tier above the other 4 guys who would be on the board there, and we don't love our offensive tackle
situation. Take the other one, wait to 33, take the other one, and friggin' coach him up for once. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great in theory, but if you really like one of the guys more than the other, I have no problem. The Browns have enough draft picks that if they like certain players, any position, yes, they do.
87 6th-round picks, those are meaningless.
If you have to give up a 4th and a 6th to move up 7 spots to get a guy you really like as opposed to potentially letting him slide away and settling for someone else, I don't have an issue with them moving up to get a player they want.
I don't know. I think that would be
I'd rather them, with Andrew Berry being in the situation they're in and Kevin Stefanski being in the situation they're in.
Yeah.
If you've identified guys you think are going to be productive, solid NFL players for your team, and you have a chance to go get those guys, be aggressive and go get those guys.
Yeah, well, but those guys are likely to. If those guys are likely to make it to you when you draft, you don't do that. That's a panic move.
Well, that's a risk you're willing to take.
If these offensive linemen are all just a bunch of guys, then I don't know. I just think it's easy to just say, well, if you want them, go get them no matter what. I get that at quarterback. At offensive tackle, what, the Browns know something that nobody else does? What are the odds of that?
Well, if there's no consensus, though, you may like a guy more than another team, which would allow you to get up.
He could just as easily slip to you at 33.
I mean, Jalen Miller could fall to 33.
I don't want
all these guys could fall to 33.
I don't want the Browns to take
I'm not advocating to trade up.
Period.
I'm not advocating to trade up to get
You're advocating.
I'm saying if they were, it's not a receiver. It'd be for an offensive lineman because I think there's a bunch of guys in this conglomerate.
Devil's advocating. Something. Some
You're
sort of advocating for this.
I'm just saying, I don't think it'd be batshit crazy if they were to do that. If they like it, listen, if you're going to get a quarterback at some point, you need an offensive lineman and a left tackle or right tackle to help protect him, keep him upright. Do you trust DeJuan Jones to stay healthy?
No.
You have Jack Conklin for this year, and what's your plan after that?
I don't trust Andrew Berry to get the pick right now. That being said, I've said this a million times. If you don't trust Andrew Berry, then it's all pointless anyway. So
yeah, there we go.
You know, but if he screws up and takes Abdul Carter at 2, then the whole thing's shot anyway, and they're screwed.
Abdul Carter might turn out to be an incredible player. Very well. I mean, he's legitimately a blue chip prospect.
Clowney.
You never know.
Just a guy.
But if the Browns take him, I'm with you, Bull. It's just the excitement that would not be there the same way it would be for a Hunter or a quarterback. I'm sorry, it wouldn't.
It's funny. A bigger picture conversation that whatever we may not have time for, but I've really thought a lot about. I've always been a big fan of analytics. I think analytics make us smarter, right? Give us more information. Better information than we've had in the past. When I was a kid, we would judge pitchers based on wins. And I think about that now, and that's insane. You still have, when people do updates on the radio, why any company is paying somebody to do updates, I have no idea at this point. But anyway, I don't want people to lose jobs. I know why they do it, because they put sponsors in there. But anyway, they still give wins. I hear these update guys give wins. The older people in this business, just older than me, guys like Jay, they'll bring up wins all the time. Pitcher wins are meaningless. They tell you nothing about a pitcher. Nothing. Absolutely zero. I don't even consider pitcher wins at all as any kind of legitimate stat. But I think in a lot of ways we've also gone too far when it comes to analytics. You think about this Ben Solak, who's going to be on with us, right? Mm-hmm. He started a whole hubbub on Twitter last year when the Bills lost to
the Chiefs.
The Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. He tweeted out, the
dots.
The dots of, Josh Allen had somebody in the flat, and meanwhile, was it Dawson Knox?
Dawson Knox ended up dropping the pass. Yeah.
Dropped the pass, right? Okay. First of all, it's easy for us sitting on the sideline to say the quarterback should have thrown the ball here, there, wherever in this big moment. The receivers are paid to catch the ball, catch the freaking ball, okay? But we're so obsessed with the statistics, the analytics, the dots, all these things. And I know dots are analytics, but that we have, to some degree, we've gone too far.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And we make everything into a number. It's in the same vein that I was talking about yesterday, where I've always been like, the Browns should lose. They should suck, get a higher pick. But that kills your culture in the locker room. And so eventually you can't keep doing that, especially when you're screwing up all the draft picks anyway.
There's a human element to sports.
And and too often when we're so obsessed with the numbers and the analytics, we forget about the human element. Now, if Jay were here, he'd be like, aha, Bull, I told you that. But the problem is the guys like Jay go too far the other way. They don't want to hear about analytics at all. And I don't know if Jay's really in that category, but there are people that they don't want to hear about analytics at all, and they're wrong too. But I think some of us, and I think I put myself in that category, have gone a little too far on turning everything into a number and getting away from some of the human element. And I don't know what it was. I didn't remember what the conversation was that got me into this.
Abdul Carter too was somehow the launching point for analytics.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it got me into this.
I don't really disagree with. Do you disagree with what he's saying?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you at all.
It's too much. It's too much. It's good information at times, but it's overkill.
I love basketball numbers. I mean, you guys know I spend way too much time on the NBA database and all this.
Yeah.
But the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, Mobley, Draymond, Amen Thompson, Zubac. I said this yet. There are 5 guys with legitimate cases, and it just depends on which numbers you want to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I don't have a vote. Chris Fedor put out his vote yesterday, and he ended up voting for Evan Mobley. If I had a vote, I would vote for Evan Mobley. And I'm probably slightly biased considering I watch him night in and night out, unlike Dyson Daniels and Thompson and all those guys. But you can find any stat to back up your point you want. And you can find any percentile index and how they compare what he does better than what Draymond does versus what Amen Thompson does versus what Ivanka Zubac does. And at the end of the day, I ended up just asking myself, game on the line.
Yeah.
Player X is guarding player Y. Who do I think is going to get a stop? And like at some point, that's simplifying it too much.
Well,
but you can also go the complete opposite direction and convolute the entire discussion with stats. And some people don't even know how they're calculated.
That's true. The problem with what you're saying, though, is like if in Chris's example, I'll give you mentioned Chris Fedor, like he's watching Evan Mobley play every day. Chris is a big basketball guy, but I'm sure he's not watching the other guys play every day. Where he wouldn't have time for that. He's covering the Cavs.
Yeah.
So you got to use the numbers in that situation to some degree to be fair about it, because you can't and you have those personal relationships. He covers Evan, And there's going to be some biases. I think Chris is a pretty unbiased guy, but there's going to be some biases in those situations. I honestly don't give a rat's ass. I mean, I hope good for Mobley, but like to have
I was just using that as an example. I wasn't saying that's like the end-all, be-all.
Yeah.
But just an example where you could parse out whatever numbers you want to support this player as opposed to that player.
What I really hate about this is we now used to just get mad when our player lost these awards. Now we get mad for 3 months. Based on the odds for these awards. For 3 months, how is Evan Mobley not the favorite to win this? I mean, this is nuts.
Dustin, can I ask you a question real quick? On the analytics versus eye test, when you look at the 2 prospects, whether it be Hunter, Carter, and you want to throw Genty in there, you could throw Genty in there. Someone who played at the highest of high levels of football, do you just look at Hunter versus Carter versus Genty and say, I just think that guy's going to be the better pro? Like, in your mind, is there one guy that just kind of stands out from everything you've watched? Take the numbers and the stats out of it.
Listen, I just think there's one guy that has done something that really nobody else has done in a long time. And he's special. Like, I just think that there's something about that guy, talking about Travis Hunter now, where the other guys, they're great. They're elite level athletes, whatever position they play, whether it be defensive end or offensive tackle or running back, as you mentioned, Genty there as well. I just think that this kid, Travis Hunter, from the second he's done anything in sports his whole life, I mean, go back and look at his upbringing. Like, the kid's a winner. The kid has dedicated his life to the sport and can go for days. Like, there's just not a lot. Like, people aren't built like that kid. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but in terms of his athletic ability, his drive, the intangibles are off the chain. And that's why I would want to have him on this team, especially when you're trying to sort of turn this thing back around. You need a franchise-saving type of player, and if it's not going to be a quarterback, why not this guy?
There's no way any other non-quarterback could have the impact on the Browns in winning.
Yeah, this guy can. He can change the city's mindset, and just excitement level for the season, because like, it's not going to be a great year. Like, they're going to win games. The Browns are going to win games. I firmly believe.
Much more competitive.
Yeah, dude. Like, everything you saw last year. Like, if Flacco would have been here on the exact same team, you sub him in for Deshaun or whoever was starting
they win 6, 7, 8 games.
At least 7, 8 games, I think. And we probably have a different tone on this offseason going into this year and where we think about the team, because if you win 8 games, you're not in misery like this 3-14 type of year.
Yeah. But then you couldn't have gotten Travis Hunter.
True.
Maybe it was perfect to let Joe go and now bring him back.
Hey, listen, if the Browns are that smart, I got to bridge the side.
Yeah, they're definitely not that smart. That's fair. But I don't know that I agree with you guys that they would have won 8 last year, but they certainly would have won more than 3. I don't know that Joe Flacco at this point in his career is worth 5 extra wins. And
they had the worst quarterback playing.
I hear you, but remember, he's also was 39.
Yeah.
Hasn't played a full season in a long time. I don't know that we can expect him to play 17 games this year. I think everybody would agree they would win more games. How many more? Who knows? Obviously, he just brings a level of professionalism and he just raises the floor of what the offense is capable of. But they were lacking talent. Now, if you add Travis Hunter, you add a young back in the 3rd round, it could be a different story. And if they draft Jalen Milroe, that's an option too of using him in certain packages to help the offense as well.